is morning, afternoon, or good night, depending on when you are watching this. My name is Dion, but you can call me Isby, and let's talk about the last 2 weeks because we didn't get last week's episode up in time because my editor took too long. We have a huge episode for you. Sexual misconduct, TikTok could be banned, and rap beef is going crazy. But before we get into any of that, let's go over to TalkB, who has a bunch of updates for last episode. So last week we talked about how JoJo Siwa had released her song Karma, and it was very annoying, the entire marketing campaign. Well, it turns out, as we talked about last time, how the song was not an original song by JoJo. It had been passed around Hollywood for years, and Britt Smith ended up releasing her version of the song, and it completely surpassed JoJo's version of the song. Now, luckily, we haven't heard anything about JoJo Siwa since then, and hopefully it'll remain that way. Something else that we haven't heard too much about in the past few weeks is the beef between Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole and Drake and all of the rappers. Now, as we talked about last week, Drake had posted this image, a scene from Kill Bill, after he had claimed he was in a 20v1. Well, Uma Thurman had responded, and she had posted this image on her Instagram story, suggesting that she will give her Kill Bill costume to Drake. However, all of that has been overshadowed as Quavo and Chris Brown started beefing. On April 20th, Chris Brown had released a song called Weakest Link, in which he destroyed Quavo. He talked about the death of Takeoff. He talked about how Quavo can't rap. I mean, he was all over it. Quavo responded with a song called Over Bitches and Hoes, and people were extremely disappointed, saying that it's insane that Quavo, a very famous rapper, lost his battle to a R&B singer. People felt like the diss simply wasn't a diss. Like, yeah, he took a few jabs, but as hard as Chris Brown had went, it was absolutely disappointing how Quavo responded. Now, all of this is coming from the fact that Chris Brown and Quavo have been somewhat beefing for quite some time, as Quavo is seemingly dating Chris Brown's ex, and Chris Brown feels some type of way because both Quavo and Chris Brown have had a mutual relationship, releasing songs together, and it seemed like they were friendly. Which is where Quavo's diss's title comes from, Over Bitches and Hoes. Now, in Quavo's song, he also took a jab at Saweetie, saying, and quote, I can take a model bitch and make her a sweetie. Now, Saweetie took to Instagram to respond to this diss by saying, hopefully the model he turns into me replies, showing that Quavo has DM'd Saweetie and she did not respond. It's looking like Quavo has taken an L, and Chris Brown and Drake are winning rap, which is the most insane thing in the history of ever. How is it that two light skins, one that is texting small children and one that beats on women, are winning the rap game over dark skin rappers? Drake and Chris Brown aren't even rappers. They are R&B artists. This is insane. Now, for our final update, last week we talked about the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. We talked about all the castings, and we talked about the release date, which was originally October 10th of 2025, next year. However, that has been delayed by about 3 months. It will now be coming out on January 20th of 2026. So we have some ways away for that. Not a huge delay, but a little bit of a delay. And with all of that being said, kick it back to you, Isby. So we're going to start this episode with arguably the most important story that has broken the news across literally every platform ever. Mainstream news, social media. This is incredibly big. It is going to change the lives of millions of people. Hundreds of people will be out of a job. It is going to change the face of America as we know it. Red Lobster has filed for bankruptcy. But Red Lobster... TikTok is going to be banned. Obviously, many people already assumed that this was going to happen. About a month or so ago, the House of Representatives had passed a bill, a foreign aid bill, that had TikTok's ban attached to it. Joe Biden admitted that he was going to sign that bill if it got passed by the Senate, and last week it got passed by the Senate, meaning that TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, has 9 months to sell TikTok to an American-based company or it faces a ban in America. Now, TikTok has already come out and said that it's not going to sell, and realistically, it makes no sense as to why TikTok would sell. America is only 10% of TikTok's users. The most famous person on TikTok is a non-American, so it doesn't make any sense for them to sell their very, very popular and very wanted algorithm to a TikTok company when it just doesn't make any sense financially, critically, like it just no sense. Many Americans have also pointed out the fact that this bill is just relatively unconstitutional. The argument that the government has stated about banning TikTok is the fact that it is a news source for many young people. However, in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, we have freedom of press. Press can show up anywhere. Now, there is a debate on the fact that because ByteDance is not an American-based company, do they still fall under those same rights? However, even if it does get banned, many Americans will be out of a job, which is also a huge other thing that the American government needs to consider. Many people will be applying for unemployment, and legally so, because obviously the government has changed it. There will be lawsuits. It is a whole thing. And even after all of that, because the bill was passed, they have to now debate it. The judicial branch has to go through it and make sure it's legal, etc., etc., etc. And as I mentioned earlier, a big reason why this got passed so quickly, despite the fact that America has been trying to ban TikTok for years now and has been unsuccessful, is the fact that they attached this bill, this ban, onto the bottom of a foreign aid package. Basically, they just kind of threw it in as a little side note of like, hey, foreign aid, also we're gonna ban TikTok. So far, nothing has been confirmed, but if you make a living on TikTok, good luck. In other news, Kai Cenat may have bought a prostitute. A woman online claimed that she was getting thousands of dollars from famous influencer Kai Cenat for seemingly sexual favors. She posted these screenshots, these images of conversations that they had, and it was a very, very big deal because Kai Cenat came on and said that she broke an NDA, which he can legally sue her on. Many people were saying that this wouldn't work out for Kai because obviously if he is paying for prostitution, that is illegal in the majority of the United States and all but Nevada, I believe. And so he may be snitching on himself, but as many pointed out, proving that you were paying for prostitution is a very difficult task. It's actually very difficult because you have to prove that the money was sent for sexual favors and not for something else, like Kai has stated, which he claims that it was for an Uber. It was also reviewed that the woman who so claims to be receiving this money altered the photographs that she leaked. Instead of him paying $5,000 as seen in the photo, it was only about $50 for an Uber or something of that sort. We haven't heard too many updates on that, but we will keep you updated. And speaking of women selling their bodies, Adriana Chechik has returned to the internet. Obviously, a few years ago, she had a very serious spinal injury after TwitchCon. It was presumed that she would never walk again, but she is up, she is running, she has been streaming, and she seems to be going back to doing whatever sort of content she used to do that I was totally family friendly, that I can absolutely talk about here on YouTube. And speaking of adult entertainers, Emily Willis has shared a promising update. Earlier this year, it was reported that she had went into a catatonic state. She went into a coma. It was very, very bad and very scary for her and her family. Well, no one quite knew what happened. A lot of people were assuming it had to do with drugs. She perhaps overdosed. That was confirmed incorrect by her younger brother. Allegedly, she went into cardiac arrest. No one can quite figure out exactly why she went into cardiac arrest yet. But the doctors said that it was not looking good. However, she has made a somewhat recovery. She is able to track things with her eyes. She is able to show emotion in her face. She is not quite able to move. She is nonverbal. Very, very not, able-bodied at this point. But the doctors have said that this may be as far as she will get. However, if we're seeing anything with the Adriana Chechik story, doctors tend to be wrong about porn stars' illnesses, so we are praying that she will get better. She was trying to get out of that adult industry and into more mainstream stuff, so hopefully she will make a recovery and will be able to pursue those passions. And speaking of adult entertainers, Savannah Bond was engaged to Ryan Garcia. Famous boxer Ryan Garcia has shared this video of him proposing to adult star Savannah Bond. Now, the proposal is... let's just play the video.
You married?
Yeah. Sure.
Yes?
Yeah.
For real?
Oh my god, yes.
No, don't play.
Now, personally, if I proposed to a woman and her response was, yeah, sure, I might want to double check that. But hey, hopefully maybe it was just he caught her off guard. Maybe everything will work out and this isn't as bad as it looks. And in other pornographic news, I really don't want to, do I have to? Billie Eilish is a gooner. So Billie Eilish did an interview in Rolling Stone in which she says she likes to, and quote, masturbate in front of a mirror because she likes the way it looks and it helps her body dysmorphia. I really wish that I didn't say that. In that same interview, she also admits that she has no idea how to type because she was in the wrong generation. Doesn't make any sense considering you are the same age as me, and I know for a fact that I took 3rd grade typing, so stop lying, Billie. Also, she hates whales. What a weird interview. Now, speaking of celebrities and porn, Kanye West apparently is going to make a porn studio. He is apparently collaborating with the Vixen Studio Company, which if you're familiar with Vixen, you know. And it's actually quite interesting that Kanye, of all people, is going to be doing this because Kanye is sort of anti-porn. If you've seen previous interviews, he's talked about how he has an addiction. He's also shamed Kris Jenner for pushing Kylie and Kim into doing Playboy at a young age. So it is interesting to see that this is coming from Kanye, but we will keep you updated if there are more updates. And speaking of Kylie Jenner, she may be pregnant by Timothée Chalamet. Now, if this is true, this would be very, very weird because this is very clearly a PR couple. There's no romantic intention here. It doesn't feel authentic by any means. We don't even see them hanging out unless it's by a paparazzi stunt. So if she somehow got pregnant, I don't want to ask questions. But obviously, as we all know, Timothée Chalamet's fan base is very, very toxic, and they were very upset to hear this news. And speaking of toxic fan bases, Taylor Swift had released her album, The Tortured Poets Department. Is that the name of it? Yeah, so Taylor Swift released her album and... It was great, and we have no notes, and we're going to move on. Please don't kill me. Speaking of releasing an album, Eminem has announced he will be releasing an album this summer titled The Death of Slim Shady, which is where he will potentially be killing off his iconic character, Slim Shady. This will be his first album since 2020 and his 12th album in total, so we will see how it compares to the others. And since we're on the topic of rap, we might as well talk about Kanye West once again, as he is being investigated for potentially assaulting a man. Now, allegedly, the man that Kanye has punched in the face was sexually aggressive towards Kanye's wife, Brianna Sensori. A representative of Ye has come out, and this is what they had to say. I will be reading it verbatim. Grabbed is a grossly inadequate as a description of what happened. He put his hands under her dress directly on her body. He grabbed her waist. He spun her around, and then he blew kisses. She was battered and sexually assaulted. Now, Kanye West has commented on this as he went on the Download podcast a few days later, and this is what he had to say. My wife walked into the bathroom at the chateau. This guy grabbed my wife. I didn't see it directly. She just started explaining to me what happened, and so I walked over, found him, and I'm talking to security, not the security that be with me, but other security, like, oh, let me get this guy escorted out or something. And, I talked to the guy, and I said, yo, you need to leave right now. And he's like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. I'm like, no, it's not okay. It wasn't okay. And then he saw it wasn't okay, and he had to go to bed early, so I tucked this nigga. Now, the issue that is coming up with this is the man that Kanye punched might have not been the right guy. See, the accused man was actually a twin, and Kanye may have punched the wrong twin. The twins are Mark and Johnny Houston. Now, no charges have quite been brought upon Kanye yet, but we will keep you updated if they do. Now, I want to bring this conversation down a little bit. I know we were kind of having a little bit of a joke about that because it's Kanye West and he's Kanye West and he punched somebody in the face. Now, I do have to acknowledge, obviously, make sure it's very clear sexual assault is not funny in any way. And this story is a great example of it. I will be putting a trigger warning up because this is very, very, very messed up. Even if you're not necessarily sensitive to this sort of information, this next story is very, very, very wrong, and I will not be making any jokes because this is extremely serious. This isn't a bit. This is an extremely serious story. 28-year-old police officer Stephen Congini has been arrested and charged with sexual assault of a minor. He has been charged with rape and aggravated indecent assault of a child. This child was 13 months old. Not years, months. This was a 1-year-old infant baby. A daycare employee had seen the injuries on the baby and notified the police. The injuries are as followed, and again, this is very messed up information. The injuries included a broken tabia and fibia on her lower left leg. For the record, the tabia is that bone you can feel if you touch your leg, that hard bone in the front. That's your tabia, and then the back one is the fibia. Abrasions to the child's fingers, bruises on the chest, bruises on the face and behind the toddler's ears, swelling on the left foot, and bruises near the ankle, and severe blackish purple bruising in the child's buttocks and vaginal area. The mother said the severe bruising was caused by a hard fall in the tub during bath time. She talked to the police about this, obviously. However, the police alleged that the mother gave misleading information to cover for the police officer. The troopers had searched her phone and found text messages where he acknowledged he was responsible for the child's injuries. The mother told the troopers that she left the toddler alone for about an hour on Friday. He informed her that the family dogs knocked over the child, which is where the injuries came from. While the mother was preparing dinner on Saturday, Congini was giving the toddler a bath. The mother then heard the child cry loudly and repeated pounding sounds. She went into the bathroom and noticed that the door was locked. When the officer finally opened it, she noticed that his shirt was wet. The mother asked why the door was locked in the first place, and he claims that it was to keep another child out of the bathroom. The state police had interviewed Congini, and he acknowledged seeing the injuries and said that once again they were by the family dog. He told investigators that he gave the toddler a bath on Saturday. He claimed that the girl had a rash. However, a doctor at Penn State Milton Hershey Medical told the investigators that the child's injuries were not caused by a bathroom fall or a family dog or any sort of rash. These were evidence of sexual abuse. Now, he was being held on a $200,000 bail, and he was suspended. That was the previous week. Last week, he somehow, I don't know if he had the money or someone else had the money for him, but he posted bail. He did forcibly resign from the police department, And again, this man is a monster. This is not a man. This is the worst a human. This is the worst thing that a human could do, and the fact that he is still alive is an issue in my opinion. Um, this whatever you he is not a human being. He has lost all rights to that title. I don't think that I even want this man to be under the ground. He needs a fate far worse than that. I hope he gets life, and I hope that the men in jail do very terrible things to him because this is disgusting for this to be a 1 year old child and to have that many injuries. Just that is just absolutely terrible. And the mother is equally to blame because this is ridiculous. The fact that the daycare center that she was dropped off at is the one that notified is it's just ridiculous, and I feel so bad for that poor girl, and I wish her nothing but the best, and I hope she finds a better home. I hope that she gets all the help she needs, and I hope that she can live a normal life despite not probably even be able to remember this, but having that subconscious issues that this will create. Genuinely, if you know where this man is, or if you see him, I will post your bail. That's all I'm going to say. I will personally post your bail. Now, I'm going to drop the trigger warning now. We are going to continue with another sexual harassment story. This one's slightly more lighthearted. Again, all sexual harassment needs to be taken seriously. And if you need help, please go get help. No one is stopping you. I promise it is so much better to go get help than to do anything else that you're thinking about. So to pick this up a little bit, but to keep it in topic, Emilio Garcia is Megan Thee Stallion's former photographer and cameraman, and he has allegedly claimed that Megan Thee Stallion created a hostile, toxic environment as well as sexually harassed him in ways. Allegedly, while they were in Easyba in 2022, the cameraman was inside of a moving vehicle, and so was Megan Thee Stallion with another woman, and that other woman and Megan Thee Stallion had sexual intercourse whilst this man was right next to them in the car. He also claimed that he felt very hostile in the environment, that there was much fat shaming going on, that he felt very bullied by his weight and his appearance. Now, a lawyer for Megan Thee Stallion has commented on the situation and the lawsuit, saying that the lawsuit is, and I'm quoting, an employment claim for money with no sexual harassment claim filed and was salacious accusations to attempt to embarrass her. Now, Emilio Garcia is being represented by the same lawyer that was representing the girls that were part of the Lizzo lawsuit. If you remember last year, Lizzo was accused of all kinds of sexual misconduct, and so Emilio Garcia has gotten the same lawyer that those girls got, and this is what that individual had to say. The reaction that my client should have not been offended or yet even somehow thankful for being in the car while she had sex with another woman is a double standard. Now, I 100% agree with that. The fact that he is supposed to be grateful, as we've seen many people comment online of, oh wow, you got to watch Megan Thee Stallion have sex with another woman? Like, that is very double standard, especially when you consider the beginning of cancel culture, at least in my lifetime, really started with people like Harvey Weinstein and Louis C.K., who Louis C.K. was, accused of all of these things, but he was doing it to himself. So if Louis C.K. is canceled and, disgraced as an individual for sexually pleasuring himself in front of a woman or on the phone with a woman, not even while in person, but on the phone with a woman, yet Megan Thee Stallion is able to fully have sexual intercourse with another woman in the same, not even room, but in a vehicle, that is 100% a double standard that does not need to exist. We will keep you updated on what happens with this lawsuit, but speaking of rappers, NBA YoungBoy is in jail as well. He was arrested on April 16th for potentially manufacturing and falsifying prescriptions, posing as a doctor, giving these fake prescriptions to pharmacists so he could get codeine and other various drugs and pharmaceuticals. He was already on house arrest for possession of a dangerous weapon, so this is not looking good for him. Now, The pharmacist caught on to this whole scheme that NBA Youngboy and his posse were doing because NBA Youngboy used the word axe instead of ask. Now, we will keep you updated on all of that, but yeah, if you're committing crimes, keep in mind your dialect. Now, shifting gears a little bit to more lighthearted stories, Mark Zuckerberg, known as Lizard Man, CEO of Facebook, very rich individual, he became extremely fuckable for about 48 hours when this image went viral of Mark Zuckerberg with facial hair. Now, it did eventually come out that this was photoshopped imagery and it's not actually true. However, Mark Zuckerberg did respond to this very viral photo with this picture of a razor, suggesting that perhaps he might consider growing out his facial hair. Now, speaking of rich white billionaires and their social media apps, Elon Musk has come out and stated that new users will have to pay for X. Following and browsing will be free, but in order to like or comment or bookmark things, you will have a small fee to pay. Now, he did come out and specify that this is only for brand new users, people who are making the new accounts, not active users, and he admitted that this will only last for 3 months. This whole thing is due to the plague of spam bots that have infested the Twitter app on comments, on videos, on everything. This is an attempt to sort of scrub them out. However, many people have pointed out the fact that if this so-called paywall is only going to last 3 months, then the bots just have to wait 3 months, and they're bots. So there were also 2 new memes on Twitter. One was very funny, one was not. One was just an engagement bait when Elon Musk stated that engagement baiting will be banned on Twitter. Now, obviously, this did not work. However, many people started using this stupid phrase and then just putting 2 letters. Pretty much is because an interaction counts if you click on something on a tweet and you open up your keyboard to comment. That counts as an interaction. So pretty much it was just, stupid you want to know who the best person in the world is? Look between, I and O on your keyboard, or O and Y, and then it would be you. And then it started just not making any sense. People would be like, look between Z and K on your keyboard. And you're like, those are not letters near each other. What are you talking about? However, a funny meme that was something that came about on Twitter was the Foghorn Leghorn meme, where basically people were just adding the famous Looney Tunes rooster into various animes and various cartoons, and he was giving pep speeches, to these characters, and it was very, very funny. I'll play you some clips.
I say, and then what? Like the North Pole, running around with the avatar like a chicken with no head? That's a joke, boy. You missed it. I flew right past you. You gotta stop. Pay attention now. Look inside yourself. Ask yourself who you is and who you want to be and such.
Boy, I said, boy, what'd I tell you about roaring in the gorge? I said, boy, you gonna spook them wildebeest. Did you listen? I say, did you listen? No, you didn't listen. You roared and made the wildebeest stomp on your old daddy. Now, Scar's gonna have to be king.
Boy, I say, boy, your final flash ain't nothing more than a flash in the pan, boy. You missed it. Flew right over me. You couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a blast like that, boy. No wonder you called the saying. All talk and nothing else. Now pay attention when I'm talking to you.
Now, also on Twitter, Andrew Tate is probably gay. It started with this tweet. Basically, there was a NASCAR sort of party happening where a bunch of women were just going on stage, random women, and they were just, doing things that were not monetization friendly. Now, I don't get monetized on this channel, but if I ever want to, I probably shouldn't be stating what these women were doing. Now, Andrew Tate responded to this video saying, and quote, screaming for random girls' tits are gay. We're just going to leave it at that until he made this tweet. Sex is for making children. Any man who has sex with a woman because it feels good is gay. Oh, my pee-pee feels good. This is great. In fact, if you are 40 with less than 5 children, you're probably gay. All that feel-good pee-pee sex and hardly any genetic legacy. Now, I thought this was a shitpost. I thought it was a joke. I was like, oh, haha, somebody, photoshopped this onto Andrew Tate because it sounds like something he would say. No. I went to Andrew Tate's Twitter. This is his tweet. It is still up. Fucking fat. Now, speaking of influencers having terrible decisions, famous YouTubers known as Watcher had announced that they were making their own streaming service and they were going to be leaving YouTube behind for their own streaming service. This streaming service was either $5.99 a month or $60 annually. This was met with backlash because many people thought that was a stupid idea. We're not going to pay for a single individual streaming service. And it was met with such backlash that they immediately recanted it within 24 hours. They now said that they will be posting their content onto their streaming service, and then after their streaming service, after it's been up for a month, they will then post that content onto YouTube. In other influencer news, Logan Paul is having a child with his girlfriend, I believe, or his fiance, I believe, Nina. But they're having a child. It's going to be a baby girl. Congratulations on him. Please don't go camping with her. And in other pregnancy news, Henry Cavill is having a child with his longtime girlfriend, Natalie Vicuso. And finally, a young high school girl could potentially be losing her scholarship because of a mistake by her high school? See, this girl in Texas was announced valedictorian, which, for those who don't know, valedictorian means you are the smartest kid in your school. You have the highest GPA, etc., etc., etc. You're just a very smart, well-rounded individual. Now, she could potentially be losing her scholarship only 20 days from graduating because the school discovered that they made a mistake with her GPA. Now, the issue with this isn't necessarily the fact that all of this happened, it's the reason why. See, apparently in Texas, that district's policy is that if you transfer schools, the credits are weighted differently, and the school, this young lady, she transferred schools, and the district, the school, did not weigh the grades differently. They were weighing the grades the same from prior to her transfer. So now that they're going through, now that she's graduating, they suddenly completely changed her entire GPA and she's dropped to third in the class. This will not only ruin her chances of becoming the valedictorian, but of course this will lose her scholarship. And obviously, if this is only a few weeks away from graduating, she already has a college picked out. She's probably already been accepted, and she probably already has this scholarship, at least prepared to be given to her. And, this is very life-changing news. The big issue that the parents have come out and said is that this district policy of the weighting of the grades of the GPA, this has been instilled in the district for the past 7 years. 7 years is a long time. So for them to mess up after 7 years of knowing this policy and to change it last minute is absolutely ridiculous and devastating for that girl. Personally, I think that the entire concept of changing how a GPA is weighted is stupid. If you get the GPA, if you get the credits for the class, then the credits should transfer over equally. There's no reason why credits should be weighted differently in any means. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. I hope that this young lady gets to go to her college of the choice that she wanted. I know that obviously college is expensive right now, and I'm sure that she was banking on getting this scholarship. So I hope that she's okay, and I hope that the school doesn't mess up. And honestly, I don't know. I don't think that there's a lawsuit to be had. But if there was, you know what I mean? That might pay for the college, you know what I'm saying? Now, before we get into nerd news, there was a little bit of a controversy over on the app known as Twitter when Owen Wilson was in the headlines because he was offered a role, a $12 million role, and he turned it down. Now, this role was to play lawyer Douglas McCann for a movie called Juice, in which it will be a retelling of the O.J. trial. However, in this retelling of the O.J. trial, O.J. Simpson will be depicted as innocent. And Owen Wilson turned down this $12 million role because, and quote, "If you think I'm going to take the lead role in a movie about how OJ didn't do it, you've got to be kidding me." Now, of course, many people praised Owen Wilson for standing his ground, for, stating his principles, for not taking this role despite the massive paycheck he was offered. However, many people, especially on the app known as Twitter, were calling out hypocrisy, claiming that Owen Wilson has no right to say things like this when he played alleged groomer Lightning McQueen on more than one occasion. Now, in order to get more of an opinion on this, we have expert movie watcher Nerdby and professional yapper Talkby to talk about this situation. Gentlemen, hey, how's it going, Isby? Listen, this situation is quite simple. Cars movies depict Lightning McQueen as this courageous hero who selfishly saved this town and helped the king get, his final victory and whatnot. But in reality, McQueen has been in several situations involving minors, and Owen Wilson has taken the role of McQueen multiple times, never denouncing what he's done, never said anything about anything, and perhaps the paycheck for this OJ movie simply was not large enough. Okay, listen, I gotta stop you there. Let's go through a few things. First of all, nothing has ever been proven, okay? Let me finish. Let him finish. Let him finish. You will get a chance to respond. Let him finish. Thank you. Thank you, Isby. These are still allegations. Let's also not forget the fact that McQueen is a 7-time Piston Cup winner. With fame comes spotlight, and with spotlight comes people coming for your neck. And do we truly believe that these are simply allegations? Are we seriously going to sit here and pretend that he didn't get caught sending images of his oiled up exhaust pipe to minors? Alleged minors. They had Bluetooth. That doesn't matter. So I had a car that had Bluetooth installed and made in 1997. It's possible. Gentlemen, can we get back to the topic of Owen Wilson and this role? Okay, let's talk about that. Are we seriously going to say that these movies did not take a jab at these allegations by portraying the victims in an older, sexualized manner? Okay, first of all, the movies came out well before the allegations. And so let's even suggest that Wilson had anything to do with it is preposterous. Let's just go to our closing statements, please. Listen, Owen Wilson is free to play with whoever he wants in any sort of movie he does, but to praise him for this decision after years of portraying a racer who was caught sending his oiled-up exhaust pipe to minors, to middle schoolers, mind you, to middle schoolers, and he had those minors portrayed in a sexualized older manner in these movies. He's never apologized for it. He's never come out and denounced what McQueen does. I just don't think it's fair, and I do believe it's hypocritical. And as I said, all of these are allegations, okay? Nothing was ever proven in a court of law. Nothing ever went to trial, okay? Owen Wilson can play whoever he wants, and I think Owen Wilson is a good judge of character. And if he believes he should play this fantastic racer, then he should. And if he believes that he shouldn't play a simple lawyer, then he shouldn't. It doesn't matter. The point is, nothing McQueen ever did was proven, okay? He was, even if we've seen the records, he was under the impression that they were 18. And so even if something happened, that's a whole different debate. But, if they were clearly either over the age of 18 or they knew what they were doing was wrong or the encounter was simply falsified, and McQueen became a champion, and we should praise him for that in his sport, and it should have nothing to do with what he did in his personal life, especially if those allegations were proven false. Well, thank you both for those arguments. Let us know in the comments if you agree with Nerdby or Talkby. Nerdby, we're about to pass it to you for Nerd News, but before we do that, I need to remind everyone to subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, do all the YouTube things so I can keep doing this and it doesn't feel like a waste of my time. Also, make sure you hit that little bell icon so you get notified next week when we talk about this week. And with all that being said, it's over to Nerdby for Nerd News. Nerdby? What is up, everybody? Welcome to Nerd News. Now, we got a lot of information to cover due to the fact that the editor took too long. To start off, there seems to be a lot of talk about Inside Out 2. It's coming out quite soon. Pixar, in fact, came out and said that throughout production of the movie, that they had 9 teenage girls show up and watch the movie for about every 4 months, every quarter, to really just give their input input to make sure that Riley was portrayed in a proper manner, and I think that that is fantastic. Obviously, you want the target audience to, be involved, especially if your target audience is not the one making the movie, something like a children's movie. Obviously, children aren't going to be involved in the production, at least as far as they can be. This also made a lot of people think of the Hot Man meeting. Very famous Flynn Rider was supposed to be what, the general woman considered a very attractive man, picking out good traits, and they had a whole meeting about it. So this was very similar to that. It was also announced that in Inside Out, shame and guilt were the original emotions that, they had sort of pitched. However, they decided to not go with that because the movie was, end quote, too dark and depressing. Speaking of Disney changing things, allegedly, Disney is going to be doing something different in their live-action Snow White movie with the poison apple. Now, the poison apple has been changed for years, so it's not that big of a change in my opinion. I think as long as they do something interesting with it, it doesn't matter. But the poison apple has had many different connotations, many different ways that it was used, so it's interesting to see what they will do for this new interpretation. It was also reported that allegedly the live-action Snow White is actually very, very good, despite all of the backlash that it has been receiving. Some test views came out, and apparently it has been praised for being a decent movie. And in more Disney news, Disney Plus is going to be experimenting with this brand new technology called channels. Basically, the idea is that if you go onto the Disney Plus app and you have a subscription, you will be able to watch random things that they just are playing on these so-called channels. This is obviously a brand new idea that Disney is completely originalizing and has never had anything similar to this before. Very smart from Disney. In other streaming service news, Netflix's The Witcher is allegedly going to be ending on season 5. Now, obviously, it has been a very big deal that Henry Cavill has left the production since they released, I believe, season 3. So Liam Hemsworth, Chris Hemsworth's brother, is going to be taking on the role of Geralt, the Witcher guy, dude. And he will apparently be doing it for 2 seasons, seasons 4 and seasons 5, in which Netflix will end the show. Not sure if this is due to ratings or if this is due to them just simply not wanting to watch, not wanting to have the show exist anymore, but we will see. And in other streaming news, U2 has collaborated with Invincible to create this U2's. It is obviously based on the train sequence, the very interesting, very iconic train sequence from the Invincible television show. And speaking of the Invincible television show, it was secretly, allegedly reported that Amazon has renewed Invincible for seasons 4 and 5. Now, this information quickly disappeared. A lot of people are thinking that Amazon either did not want this information to come out yet, or they were debating on whether or not they were going to renew the show for even more seasons, and they don't want people to get their hopes up. I'd probably go with the latter. They just don't want people to know quite yet, especially with season 3 not existing. So they'll probably announce seasons 4 and 5 officially after season 3 comes out, which allegedly is going to be coming out much sooner than the gap between seasons 1 and seasons 2, due to the fact that they filmed seasons 2 and 3 at relatively the same time. Speaking of things that were only kind of confirmed, Simu Liu has come out and said that Shang-Chi 2 will probably be happening, that they are working on it. However, this is coming from him and no Marvel officials. There's been no announcements about it, so we will see if Shang-Chi 2 will actually be a thing. I would imagine it was. As far as I'm aware, Shang-Chi was very, very well received, so it'd be a shock, in my opinion, if they did not go ahead and make a Shang-Chi number 2. In other Marvel news, allegedly Kang Dynasty might still be a movie. Now, we've kind of already talked about the fact that Jonathan Majors has, since been removed from the role of Kang the Conqueror, and that Marvel and Disney are moving away from the storyline of Kang being this big, important bad guy, and that they will probably be using Doctor Doom. But allegedly it was reported that Kang Dynasty will in fact start filming next year. Apparently they're going to get somebody who's never directed a Marvel movie before. Whether or not this movie is still going to be titled Kang Dynasty, or if it'll just be The Avengers 5 and they'll figure it out, who knows. It was also announced that allegedly that for the next Avengers movie, they're going to have a smaller roster. Kind of like how the original Avengers movie only had the core 6 Avengers. Avengers, they want to do something similar, allegedly. More Marvel news says that Wesley Snipes could potentially be having a cameo or even a major role in the next Blade movie, the one with Mahershala Ali coming out. Speaking of that Blade movie, it has obviously been a very, very heavy topic in the Marvel community, and especially in the MCU, because there was a leaked script years ago. Basically, they didn't want the Blade movie to be a Blade movie. They wanted it to be about Dracula's daughter, and essentially Blade was thrown as a side character, and there were lots of problems with Mahershala Ali involved. He did not like any of the scripts. He refused to film a lot of the things. Many people were saying that no, this isn't true, this is just a rumor, they're going to be fine. Well, it was confirmed that allegedly the new Blade movie will be stripped down to, and quote, Mahershala Ali killing vampires. Now, this is what many people wanted the movie to be. It's a Blade movie. It should be about a black guy with a cool sword and a cool gun and a bunch of cool stuff, and he fights vampires. And it's a very, very easy movie to make. And, it was reported that Marvel simply, or Disney, or whoever up at the top, simply did not want to do that. They were complicating the movie way too much. And, again, these were rumors. Many people were saying Marvel fanboys are going crazy, that this isn't true. But based on this description of the script being stripped down to what people wanted the movie to be, to me, that very heavily implies that no, that is in fact what the movie was going to be. It was going to be a movie not featuring Blade killing vampires, but about Dracula's daughter fighting the undead zombies, and Blade was a side character. It all to me seems very confirmed by this information. Now, speaking of Marvel and Halloween, Venom 3, Venom the Last Dance, has been moved up in its release date to October 25th. Now, allegedly, this is because Marvel or Sony did not want the United States election interfering with their ticket sales, which, to be fair, is absolutely, fair. I can't even get mad. That makes sense. And speaking of the Sonyverse, allegedly Kraven the Hunter has been delayed until December. I believe Kraven the Hunter was supposed to come out sometime within the next few months, so for it to get delayed all the way back till the end of the year could be a really good thing or a really bad thing. And in other Sony news, allegedly Sony has gotten the right to make movies and television shows based on the board game Clue. Now, of course, we've established multiple times here that, these toy companies want to make universes with their toys, right? Obviously, many franchises are already based on toys, franchises like G.I. Joe or Transformers. With the Barbie movie being such to suggest, many toy companies, including Hasbro and, other famous toy companies, really want movie. We talked last week about how Margot Robbie will be producing the Monopoly movie. Well, now Sony will be involved in Clue. Now, this is interesting because Clue not only already has a movie that exists, but also Knives Out exists, and many people consider that as a modern-day Clue movie. And Knives Out 3, I'm pretty sure we'll be getting a third movie to complete a trilogy of movies. With Daniel Craig even coming out and saying that he would play the role of the detective over and over again, and that he absolutely loves the role. Now, back to more superhero news. Ma and Pa Kent have been cast in Superman Legacy, which is now no longer Superman Legacy, it's just Superman. But I'm going to refer to it as Superman Legacy because that's just what I've gotten used to. Neva Howe will be playing Ma Kent, and I couldn't find anything that she's really been a big part of. Pruitt Taylor Vince has been cast as Pa Kent. Now, if you're familiar with comic books, though, you may recognize him as Otis from The Walking Dead. Now, to me, this is great casting. To me, both of these look like Southern parents. Snyder fans were very upset because Pa Kent wasn't a big, muscly man, I guess. Kind of gay, in my opinion. In other casting news, Jack Black confirmed that he is the one playing Steve in the Minecraft movie. Now, this confused many people because many people assumed that Jason Momoa is going to be the one playing Steve. But if Jack Black is to be the one playing Steve, that leaves the question, who is Jason Momoa playing? We don't know, but we will keep you updated once we find out. And speaking of movie castings in a video game movie, the cast for Sonic 3 has been revealed. Ben Schwartz, Colleen Strong-Nessie, and Idris Elba will be returning in their respective roles as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and it was revealed who will be playing Shadow the Hedgehog, which many people were excited for, and it will be Keanu Reeves himself. I am excited to see where this goes. Also, it was revealed that Eggman is going to be fat in Sonic 3, which is pretty cool, so that'll be interesting. Now, speaking of Sonic, let's talk about their rival Nintendo and how they wanted to collab with Fortnite, which excited many people. Many people have been wondering about characters like Samus or even Mario, perhaps. However, Nintendo only wanted their Nintendo characters to be available on Nintendo consoles, specifically the Switch, because that is the only Nintendo console that has access to Fortnite. Obviously, this doesn't make any sense because the entire appeal of Fortnite is that you can cross over any character, and it wouldn't make any sense because that would mean that if you have a Nintendo exclusive character, that would change how the character would look in another console, or you would only have Nintendo only servers, and it was just too much, and so Fortnite backed out, which is totally understandable, and I absolutely agree, and Nintendo needs to get their head out of their ass so I can play as Zero Suit Samus in Fortnite. Now, speaking of video game franchises for Gen Z, Scott Cawthon has announced that he really wants Bryan Cranston to play Henry Emily in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Now, obviously, this is just a Scott Cawthon fan casting in a lot of ways, even though he is the creator of the franchise. He has no control over the casting for the most part. And speaking of Bryan Cranston, we were robbed of a series starring Bob Odenkirk and David Cross. They were supposed to star in a docu-style series comedy in which both Bob and David were going to be cult leaders, that they were trying to mess with each other and gain the most followers in their cult. It was canned because apparently analytics and marketing teams didn't get it, which is crazy. Why are we letting AI control what we can and can't produce when AI can't produce anything? However, speaking of buddy comedies, Danny DeVito and Arnie Schwarzenegger are going to be in another movie. Now, of course, they have been in several movies before, with Twins being both of their #1 movies ever, and they've made so much money off of that movie. Danny DeVito came out and said that a script is being written for their next movie, and I really hope that we get that movie because that will be a great movie. Speaking of movies that are in production, the live-action One Punch Man movie has started pre-production. It will be written by Rick and Morty writers Dan Harmon and Heather Ann Campbell, with Justin Lin set to direct the movie. And speaking of books turning into movies, Phil Lord and Chris Miller's movie adaptation of Project Hail Mary, which stars Ryan Gosling, will release on March 20th of 2026. The movie is about a man who comes from space, he crash lands, he has a severe case of amnesia, but all he knows is that he was sent from somewhere to save humanity from some sort of large destruction. As I mentioned, it is based on a book, so you can probably go and figure out how the movie is going to end, unless they do something different, which is very possible in Hollywood adaptations. And in other big movie news, Quentin Tarantino has canned his last film, The Movie Critic, which was to be set in the same universe as Once Upon a Hollywood, with Brad Pitt allegedly reprising his role as the character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That whole has all been canned. Quentin Tarantino just decided that he didn't want that one to be his last movie, so he's now deciding on what he wants his last movie to be, because Quentin Tarantino, for some reason, truly believes that he is only allowed to film like 13 movies, and I don't know why, but, you know, somebody should probably let him know that he can keep doing that, but I don't know. And speaking of famous directors, last week we talked about how M. Night Shyamalan was making a movie called Trap, which involved a concert and a serial killer, and a trailer was released, and it looks really, really good. M. Night Shyamalan might be back. This may be a very good movie, or it's going to be a very bad movie, you know, like how he usually does. But we'll see. And speaking of dropped trailers, Transformers 1 trailer dropped, and I think it looks pretty good. It was completely different than what I thought the movie was going to be. It is the origin of Megatron and Optimus Prime. Seems a lot of people did not like it. I think it's just due to the fact that they did not like that it was a cartoon. However, the movie seems to be made, you know, in kids in mind, so it doesn't really affect me that much. I think it looks fun. I think it looks great. You guys let me know in the comments if you have seen the trailer and whether or not it looks great. And obviously, the biggest amount of nerd news that has come for the past 2 weeks, the reason for the hat, Deadpool and Wolverine trailer dropped. and many people were very excited. We see Hugh Jackman without the sleeves, Hugh Jackman curses. I mean, it had a lot of Hugh Jackman, and the plot of the movie seems to be that this version of Wolverine is not the MCU Wolverine, and it is not the Fox Universe Wolverine. It is a completely different Wolverine, which makes sense because they did say that they were not touching Logan, that Logan was going to be its own standalone thing, that they weren't touching it, so this has nothing to do with it. However, it does seem to be adapting a similar story, a more comic accurate version of Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan is the comic book that the movie Logan was kind of based off, but it was very comic inaccurate. It didn't really have any of the comic stuff, even though it was a great movie. This seems to be going in the other direction of making it a comic accurate version. We see a giant skull of Ant-Man. Perhaps the Hulk might be involved. I hope not, because that would be weird, but we'll see. And while we're talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, we need to talk about Ray Chan, who passed away. He was the art director on a lot of MCU movies, and he was the production designer for Deadpool and Wolverine. So hopefully, his family's doing okay. Hopefully they can enjoy his final projects, and hopefully, he's in a better place if you believe in that kind of thing. If not, fuck you. And in some final comic news, Jacksepticeye released his comic books. Those are available for purchase. Void Silver and the somewhat incredible Jackie Boy Man are both apparently doing pretty good. I haven't read any of them yet. Perhaps I will. Should I? Let me know in the comments. And in some final nerd news, Seth MacFarlane has stated that he will not be ending Family Guy anytime soon. He says that people seem to enjoy it, which is true. Many people tend to enjoy Family Guy, so there's really no reason in him ending it. And a lot of people also pointing out the fact that there really makes no sense financially for Seth MacFarlane to end it, because Seth MacFarlane does a lot of things that don't necessarily make him a ton of money as Family Guy does. He does a lot of jazz music, he does a lot of, sort of classic music, kind of like that. So if Family Guy is to fund those projects, let him do it. He also, seems to be a great guy. He was, super heavy involved in the WGA strikes. So he seems to be doing pretty good. And speaking of animated sitcoms, The Simpsons killed off a character. Larry the Barfly, who, is a patron from Moe's Bar. He's there often. They just killed him off. Simpsons is known for killing characters, every once in a while. Many people are hoping that this will be the start of a thing where The Simpsons just starts killing off every character to end the show. But we'll see. But that happened. And in our final piece of nerd news to keep it going with our sitcoms, Domhnall Gleeson and Sabrina Impacticore will be starring in the new Office television show. Now, this television show is not a reboot. They are very, very heavy on establishing the fact that this is not a reboot. It is set in the same universe, so perhaps there will be some cameos from other characters. And it is being co-created with Greg Daniels, who is the original Office creator. So people are hoping that it'll be good, especially considering it is not a full reboot. It is just a similar style show. Now that is all I have for nerd news. I hope you enjoyed it, and now it's back to you, Isby. Thanks for all that information, Nerd B. Thank you for watching till the end of this video. Make sure you do all the YouTube stuff so you can get notified next week when we talk about this week. And as always, my name is Dion. You can call me Isby, and now you're caught up from last week. See you. Congratulations to Henry and Natalia. I'm going to keep having sex with women because I like my PP feel good energy. We have a bunch of stories coming for you this episode. Sexual misconduct, TikTok could be banned, and RAF beef is going crazy. I'm going to say that again because what the fuck is RAF? But it was not looking good until later last week. And speaking of Kylie Jenner, she might be pregnant by Timothy Chalamet with no... Sorry. Obviously, the reason for the hat and the biggest story of the nerd... And speaking of movies turning into books, nope, that's not the other way around. Obviously, as I said, this is based off of a book, so if you want to go read that book and, find out what happens, go do that. Go, shoot, fine. That was so stupid. And that is all I have for nerd news. Damn, how did we fuck that up? Domhnall Gleeson and Sabrina Impacticore will be starring in the Office show that is coming out very soon. It is not a reboot. Very specified. Damn it! Let me do that again because that doesn't make any sense. This girl in Texas was valedictorian. However, not Elon Musk. Damn it. Okay. In other Twitter news, why do I keep saying Elon Musk? He went into a coma for a few months. It was revealed later this week. Damn it. Fuck, so close. It was revealed earlier a little bit ago that her... fuck! Sorry. The role was in... Fuck! I was so close. Okay. Fuck, shit. Fuck. We have expert movie watcher Nerdby and professional yapper Isby. Fuck! I was so close.